We're devoting our broadcast tonight to the most lethal civilian mass shooting in American history. In the early hours after midnight this morning, a lone gunman inside an Orlando, Florida nightclub began opening fire at the club's predominantly gay clientele. The shooter killed at least 50 people and wounded more than 50 others before Orlando police stormed the club and killed him. This hard-to-believe death toll in Orlando is worse than the number of innocents killed at the elementary school in Newtown, the movie theater in Colorado, the campus of Virginia Tech, and the holiday party in San Bernardino, California last December. President Obama, after being briefed by his FBI director and counterterrorism advisor, described the tragedy as both an act of terror and hate. The FBI is now leading the investigation. The NewsHour's Megan Thompson reports.
The shooting began around 2 a.m. inside the Pulse nightclub near closing time, and more than 300 patrons were about to call it a night. A lone gunman was already inside, armed with an AR-15 style semi-automatic rifle and a handgun that he'd purchased legally in the past few days. The gunman first engaged in gunfire with an off-duty police officer working security at the club. Then the gunman went back inside, began his killing spree, and turned survivors into hostages. 3 hours later at 5 a.m., an Orlando police SWAT team stormed the club and shot and killed the gunman, but not before the gunman killed at least 50 people. It is not known at what point during the ordeal the victims were killed, whether before or after the SWAT team intervened. Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer said of the scene, "There's blood everywhere." Witnesses to the massacre were in shock. One survivor said at first he thought the gunfire was part of the club's music.
When you turn around, the person next to you is like screaming, there's blood splattering. I didn't know if it was mine or somebody else's, but when I got out, I realized it wasn't mine. It was somebody else's. The person I was with was shot in the back. I had to take my bandana off and tie it up, put it in the bullet hole that was in his back so that he wasn't bleeding.
We have still friends in there. We actually have two friends in there. One has a wounded on his leg, and then the other one on the arm.
The mother of one man trapped inside the club spoke with her son during the shooting.
What did he tell you exactly?
That the shooter has them in the women's bathroom hostage, and he's going to die.
The police chief says the SWAT team rescued at least 30 potential victims who had been held hostage. The Orlando Regional Medical Center treated most of the 53 people authorities say were wounded or injured. Hundreds of donors lined up to answer an urgent appeal for blood to help doctors treat the dozens of wounded.
We have spent the morning operating on a number of victims. We continue to operate on them. We have found many of them are critically ill as a result of their injuries.
The FBI identified the gunman as Omar Mateen, a 29-year-old U.S.-born citizen whose parents are from Afghanistan. He lived in Fort Pierce, Florida, about 90 miles southeast from Orlando. The FBI also revealed that it had questioned Mateen before, in 2013 for making inflammatory comments to coworkers, and in 2014 for possible ties to this jihadist who also lived in Fort Pierce and who was the first American to carry out a suicide bombing in Syria. Both times, Mateen was cleared. The FBI also confirmed Mateen made a 911 call right before the shooting and talked about the Islamic State group, or ISIS.
There were 911 calls in which there was conversation between the subject and law enforcement representatives of 911 dispatchers. It's my understanding, I have not personally listened to them, but it was general to the Islamic State.
Today, the ISIS news agency claimed responsibility for the attack, describing Mateen as an Islamic State fighter, but this claim has not been confirmed. Police searched the van parked by the shooter outside the club. They did not find any explosive devices or booby traps inside the club. As part of the investigation, police surrounded and searched the home of Mateen's parents in Fort Pierce. NBC News reported that when it reached Mateen's father on the phone this morning, Mir Sadiq said, "We are in shock like the whole country, and we are saying we are apologizing for the whole incident." According to NBC, the father also said the shooting had nothing to do with religion, but his son had been angered when he recently saw two men kissing. Orlando Police Chief John Mina urged anyone who was in the Pulse nightclub last night at any time to call the authorities.
And what we need to do is continue to be vigilant and call. If you see something, say something, and call anyone. Call 911, call the FBI. If you see something that's out of place or you see someone that's acting strange behavior.
At the White House this afternoon, President Obama spoke about the Orlando massacre, but did not take any questions. Here is part of his statement.
This is an especially heartbreaking day for all of our friends, our fellow Americans who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender. The shooter targeted a nightclub where people came together to be with friends, to dance and to sing and to live. The place where they were attacked is more than a nightclub. It is a place of solidarity and empowerment where people have come together to raise awareness, to speak their minds, and to advocate for their civil rights. So this is a sobering reminder that attacks on any American, regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, or sexual orientation, is an attack on all of us and on the fundamental values of equality and dignity that define us as a country.